Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories where I go over them, analyze them, and on occasion, make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story titled, The Cat is Out of the Bag. And guys, this story is definitely one of the crazier ones I've done in a while. It's a long story with many parts, I believe 7 or 8 updates, so you're definitely going to get your money's worth, so by all means grab some popcorn here. This is all about a guy. He was married to his wife for like 35 years. They had 4 sons together, or at least that's what he thought. And upon going through her things and all that after she died and handling her affairs, he found out that guess what? She was having multiple affairs all the years they were married, since 6 months into their marriage. And you're going to find out here, he then questions about whether his kids are not his or not. And you're going to see here, guys, as I go into the story, the answer to that question. Is it what? He has 4 sons. Is it 1 kid, 2 kids, 3, 4, or all of them not his? And you're going to see as I go into this, as it definitely gets crazier and crazier with regards to what he finds out, digs into, all that, and how he handles things with, obviously, those that she had affairs with. So, starts off, it says here, okay, the cat is out of the bag. One of my sons got drunk and told everyone what I found out. Now everyone in the village is asking me why I never suspected her. I told them as I worked nights and no one in the village told me. All this time I was a laughingstock, but I will soon find out what sons are actually mine. Well, that's real nice of his kids, real mature, getting drunk and letting people know what's going on. By the way, this guy is over in Scotland and he's from a village, so small village, as you can imagine, people talk. He says, long story short, my wife of 35 years died 3 years ago. I'm sorting out things to be recycled. I found out that she had an affair partner from the first year we were married to 7 years ago when he died. 35 years of marriage, and she's been having an affair with that particular dude. That's like her main dude for 28 years. Real nice, huh? We have 4 sons, and through the letters and later from texts, he believed that one of them was his son. So 3 weeks ago, the kids asked me to take a DNA test, as 2 of them are mine and 2 are not sure. So 5 tests were sent to be tested. Obviously the 4 sons and his own. No, I didn't know she was having an affair, as I worked nights for the whole marriage. He said she could gaslight with style. I suspected nothing. We have 4 sons, all over 20 years old. They all say they hope I'm their biological dad, as they know the scumbag the letters and the texts are from. So they actually know the dude who mom's been hooking up with all this time. All those years. He says, update. Now we're going to update number 2. And this guy, he kind of writes all over the place, guys. Just bear with me as I do the storytelling here. Update number 2. 2 of the 5 DNA tests are back. My 2 sons phoned me to tell me that they got their DNA test results back. The eldest and the second eldest. It seems they are only half brothers. I will have to wait till mine comes back too. All 4 sons will be home this weekend so I can see what their DNA page results. He says if the other 2 get their back. We will have to work out what's happening, if they have any other half-siblings, full siblings. If so, who are they and what their dad's name of his half-sibling. Need my results as well so we can see who's mine. Can you imagine just waiting for this? Can you imagine getting this news? And he doesn't really get into like how the dynamics between he and his wife, but they're together all this time. But the point is to find out all these years she was having affairs, and that your kids, there's a possibility not just some, but all are not yours. Can you imagine that? I mean, 1, can you imagine somebody doing that to somebody else? But 2, imagining finding this out, the embarrassment, the humiliation. I mean, this poor bastard. Update number 3. Okay, this started when my wife died 3 years ago. We married in 1986. I'm waiting for the post-mortem that took 2 weeks. I need the paperwork so we can put her to rest. The sons and I decided to start recycling her things that she left behind, charging up old phones, laptops to see if they still worked, and going through her papers. We found a cache of love letters and texts that she had kept hidden from me. And long story short, she had been having an affair that started in the first year of our marriage, about 6 months in. 6 months in. Why'd she get married then? Well, rhetorical question, because obviously he was her meal ticket. He'd pay the bills, and she could go have fun in the village. Until he died 7 years ago. Cancer, so his last text says a month ago before he died. I check him out and he did die of cancer. I didn't know a thing about it as I worked nights. Our backstory is that we met at a holiday camp in Scotland in 1979. We dated till we were married in 1986. She came from a small village. We married and lived in this village until her death. Finding the hidden love letters from the affair partner, I found out that he thought that one of the kids that we had was his. We have 4 boys. I also found out that I was the laughingstock of the whole village that they all knew. I've lived in this village for 30 plus years and I'm still the outsider. Everybody in town essentially knew. I mean, when you come from a small community, and I grew up in a small community back when I was a kid, believe me, people talk. I mean, and she's hooking up with dudes left and right. Unbelievable. I don't know how their wives didn't know, or they did, and just maybe they were hooking up other dudes too. He says, I was blind as a bat. I worked permanent nights 4 days a week. I didn't see any red flags. Even now looking back, I still don't. Seems she could gaslight for Scotland in the Olympics. He was a friend of the family from talking to her kids, and they knew nothing. They say he was never around late at night. If he came to the house, he always left by 9 p.m. I left for work around 9:30 if you don't do a 24-hour clock. From the letters and texts, it was well known in the village, and that I'm the laughing stock. The boys, two of them want a DNA test, and 2 of them don't. They think it might be them. The other 2 say I'm their dad. Well, that's great that at least that they obviously want this dude to be their dad, and they don't want to know. But how can you not know at this point? He says, revenge. I own the plot next to where her mom and dad are buried. She wanted to be next to them, her mom and dad one side, and her affair partner on the other. I found that out from the text on her phone and the graveyard registry. So when the body and paperwork was released, I had her body moved 300 miles away down to England and buried in a grave down there. One regret, I didn't have time to cremate her first. Well, there you go. She's no longer with mom and dad in the cemetery, 300 miles away. That's hilarious. Hey, this is what she gets. I'd bury her face down. The village is pissed at me as I moved out back to England, nowhere near the gravest place that I don't have to go to. I told them they made me the outsider 30 years ago. I lived in the village and they never forgave me for being born in England. And they all knew what she was doing and never told me. Oh my God. All right, some of you Scottish folk that watch me, if there are any out there, let me know about this thing here. Obviously, there's some ill will towards the English folk, but just let me know. I know some Irish dudes, and they're no fans of England, but we're all brothers here in these channels, so let's try to be civil here. That they can't complain about me not putting her to rest next to her affair partner or her mom and dad, and here's the kicker. If they want to move her grave, they will need a judge to allow them to dig her up and move her, and that I own the plot and will never allow her in there. Ha. DNA test. All the kids at a meeting and want DNA tests done to all of us, and they got 5 tests. We did them and posted them. He said, I forgot to tell you that I had also took a STD test and failed. It seems she gave me the clap. Doctors say it can be controlled, but it can't be gotten rid of, and it will always be in my bloodline. They don't know how much damage has already been done or for how long I had it. But being as the youngest is 20, and is clear, I would say under 20 years. So if it isn't bad enough already, she gave him a freaking STD. What a piece of garbage. Again, burying her 300 miles away in another country is at the least what he could do. Update number 4. Yes, all 5 results are back from both sides. Ancestry and 23andMe. Let me tell you, we're sorting through new results here. Checking them seems that my family line stops with me. The surname will carry on, but no blood will. All 4 boys are half-siblings, and all 4 of them have other half-siblings that show up on the results pages of Ancestry that show if there's other DNA results near to your results and how you're related. So none of these boys are his. That is terrible. She is a piece of garbage. She is probably burning in hell. The devil is poking her with his pitchfork, or whatever the hell you call it. Once we thought One we thought was the affair partner's son was not. It was a different one. He has 2.5 brothers and 2 half-brothers and 2 half-sisters. He is the second in line by 3 months. So his dad's wife was halfway pregnant and showing a baby bump when he was conceived. The older brother, he has a 1.5 brother and 2 half-sisters, and who he is the middle child, according to 23andMe. God help him, an older sister. The last one of the 4 is the eldest by a year to his half-sibling, a brother, and is a real arsehole. He will get his face punched in if he starts shit with my son. This is like something I would imagine the Scottish Jerry Springer show or something like this. This is crazy. He says, none of the boys are mine, and none of my blood in their veins. None of them had the same father. We've been sorting through the results we got from 2 independent DNA sites. All the boys have different dads. Oh my God. In the first week in September at the compulsory community open village meeting, he says it's the one that vote in the new people. Everyone, I'm going to skip this part. It's hard to understand what he's saying here. He says, I will have all my ducks in a row. Countdown has started. Getting ready to go nuclear on their arses. I know a few divorces will be started and some crap people will be ran out of the village. There might be a heart attack or 2. I made 70 copies of the text and love letters, made 70. Check. DNA, 3. Test results and links copied, check. Watch this space, wahaha. Again, this guy's kind of writing all over the place here, so just bear with me, guys. But the point is, the shit's about to hit the fan. It's about to get out in the village while he's settling all her affairs about what happened, the DNA results, and all the things that went down. Update number 5. I've been asked to update, and he says, stop it already. I will update when I have something to post. The die has been cast. I got a hold of the chairperson and asked if I can talk at a meeting, as a lot of people want to know why my wife was not buried in the local graveyard, why my house in the village is unoccupied. I asked if I can do the talk before they hold the election so I can get to work on time. He says, I don't even work in Scotland now. I got an email back saying they would welcome me to talk at the meeting as I still own a house in the village, and because of my work commitment, I'll be able to talk first. The bomb has been planted and set. So they're obviously, I don't understand how things work in different countries, but it's a small village, so obviously I guess to handle affairs there, they have these town meetings, if you will. And this is where he's going to go there and let people know what's going on and whatever. And that way he can then drop the bombshell. He says, edit number 1. Being an election meeting, the people in office, except the secretary who need to take notes, are no longer in those offices until voting in again. The village priest opens the meeting and runs the elections until all places are filled. They all take place from the priest till the next election. Update 6. And by the way, some of these updates are very short, some are long. Update number 6. So this time next week, I'll be ready to talk at the meeting. Today I got a phone call from my sister-in-law. He says the first one in a year, telling me she and the whole village have gotten the agenda for next week's meeting. She sees that I'll be talking at the meeting. I told her yes, I'll be talking at the meeting. I told her that I have now got all her sister's papers and things in order. I got all her things sorted out. And I'm ready to pass on the village to the results. She asked me what I mean. I told her she already knows. There is no way her sister doesn't know about what she's been up to all those years. And probably there's no way the sister, the auntie of those boys, don't know that those kids aren't his children. He says that her sister had left a few things for some people in the village, that I will use the meeting to pass on these things. That I had to give money to the priest for the night. She should have been laid in the chapel the night before her burial. She asked where her body is, or did I have it cremated? I told her she is buried and all will be revealed at the meeting. I told her I will see her at the meeting and hung up. I phoned and warned my sons that their aunt is on a fishing trip and not to pass on any information. They don't know what I'm going to say, and if she asks where their mom is buried, just to tell her the town. It has more than 10 graveyards. Some are full and can only be used for graves that have already been paid for or has a space in the grave for her body. Well, here's a question. She died. How did the sister not go to her grave or funeral? Unless she was a giant piece of crap to everybody in the family, including her sister. That's a question I had reading this. Update 7. Okay, so I get to the meeting, Bloody Church Hall. There are 250 people in the audience sitting down with face masks on. It's the law in Scotland, all spread out. The priest goes on the mic and asks if everyone got their masks on, including the kids. This is the COVID era, so people wearing masks. He does the quick check and then starts the meeting. He explains to the local, it's a local election time for the village, and there's a few posts that only one person has been put up for some post. He then says that I asked to talk to the meeting as I have now sorted all my deceased wife's papers and things. He then moves to the lectern so I can speak. I call my sons up to the top table to support me while I speak. I start out by telling them that she left a few things I need to give back to people in the village. Gee, whatever could he mean? To some, it will be a shock, to others, not. That I was very disappointed with the people of the village for blindsiding me for 30 years. Especially my wife's sister, and by the look on her face, she already knows why. Guaranteed she knows why. Next, I gave the priest an envelope with 200 pounds in it and told him that it was for the night my wife should have been laid to rest in the chapel before her burial. I then said she was not put to rest in the village cemetery as she wanted, as I found a paper trail that put her mom and dad on the left side and her affair partner on the right. So then the grave has been given to my son for their use, with a few conditions attached. In the folders, I have made up a letter from AP, the affair partner, bragging about buying the plot the day after I got one for her to be next to her, so when she's next to her mother, he will be next to her. I see no reason to put her in a consecrated ground next to one of her lovers. So I buried her body in a non-denominational graveyard, and if asked, I will tell you the town that she's in. He says the meeting begins to get a bit noisy. I then ask if her BFF is in the audience. She is. I pass on the rosary beads that my wife left her. The audience starts clapping. This is a bizarre town, a bizarre village, and a bizarre story, but that's why I do them. Next, I asked 6 people to stand up that my wife had left some things for them to collect, and they stand, and I asked them to come to the big table to collect an envelope per couple. I gave them one each with their names on it. Gee, what information could be in the envelopes? They're probably thinking they're getting some cash or some jewelry or something. No, not exactly what they thought. The first one I picked out to talk was the one who cheated on his wife while she was pregnant. I told him that when he had an affair with my wife, he got pregnant. 4 to 5 months old after he got his wife pregnant. He said, I can't prove it. I told him dates of the birth and DNA to prove it. I had the letter by you sent to my wife, and later texts, photocopies were made and put in the bigger bundles made up for the rest of the parish to read with the DNA results. It shows your children are half sibling to one of mine. That he knows the results, and if he wants to, he can make himself known to you. But don't hold your breath. He knows about his biological dad being a philanderer, and he says it's not the first time that he's had fun in the village. I gave his wife the link so she can check online. I told them my son knows who his biological father is, and it's up to him if he wants to get in touch with them. But if they follow the links, there's ways for them to get in touch with him. Surprise! The next one tried to go sit down, not wanting to know what happened. I get them both on stage and asked them how long they've been married. She replied 20 years. How many kids do you have? She said 3. I asked him. He said 3. I asked if you're sure of that, and he replied yes. Then I asked why he sent my wife a letter in the late 90s saying, how's our kid doing? He said he didn't. I then pulled out the letter and asked his wife, is this his handwriting? She said it looks like I told her I had better proof, and she wanted to see it. I gave her the DNA results that showed half of the sibling match with her son and daughters. She can check it out online and give the links for her to check. I told her the son knows who his biological dad is, and she can use the link to get in touch with him if he doesn't get in touch with her. She is the only one who asked if I knew a good divorce solicitor. Ha! His wife, his now deceased wife, kept records of all this. It was probably for blackmail. Think about it. All the letters, all the details, over all those years, decades. It probably was. I gotta wonder if she has a secret stash of cash somewhere. Probably, to keep these guys, so they would keep her quiet, essentially. The last one was the best. Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, the chairperson, and his non-suspecting wife, the secretary. I asked if she enjoyed being the secretary for the locals. She said yes. I told her the whole village was talking about her behind her back. Half, if not more, of the village knew her husband had been cheating on her, and like me, they never told her. Her husband for over 30 years had regular flings. On one of them, he got my wife pregnant. They must have been married for about 5 years when it happened. In the envelope is your husband's DNA results that prove 99.9 that your husband is the father of one of my sons. As always, I told her the son knows, and if he wishes to tell her who he is, it's up to him. I gave the wife the link and told her they can get in touch with him via the link. This is like the Scottish Jerry Springer show. Can you imagine being there to listen to all this? I'm surprised it wasn't just people stormed out. I don't know. Or people couldn't resist. It's a town. Small village. They need gossip. There you go. This is the story of the year. This is probably the story of the decade. I told the meeting that the fourth betrayed husband is dead, and I have already seen and told her of his betrayal and why I changed the wife's plot to England. And if she wanted it, she could have the wife's old plot be buried. She said thank you, but no thank you. She won't be in the same graveyard as her dead husband. I gave her the links so she can check the DNA test and the links to get in touch with him. This is where the fight starts. How has a fight not erupted out already? I then say to the whole meeting, I will have a word with the priest to see if he can keep the confessionals open extra this weekend, as the whole village is nothing but a lying backstabber that's helped in committing adultery, and that no one who knew about the adultery are against God's teachings. One of the 10 Commandments, and you helped in people in acting and committing adultery. What a village way to go. This is where the first punch is thrown. Not at me, but at the chairperson getting a black eye from his wife, the secretary. Then all hell broke loose. They split in 2 groups, those that knew and those that didn't, or said they didn't. The 3 wives were beating the snot out of their hubbies with the help of their 2 kids. 2 came up and asked what was the husband's. The love child, her husband, sired. I pointed out technically they are the bastards and they were conceived out of wedlock. Scottish Jerry Springer show. I told her they were here, and if they wanted to, they could come over and see if you don't leave for an hour. If not, I gave you a link to use to get the information on him and get access. I then shouted in the hall to the sister-in-law, I no longer want anything to do with you and her. By her actions, her husband should be doing a few checks on their own. On her behavior, being as she condoned her sister's behavior and never said a word for nearly 30 years. So I asked, what are you hiding about yourself? I never did get around to telling them where the grave is, even what town it's in. I've not banned the kitchen talking to their auntie, but they said they don't want anything to do with her. Our phone contacts come up for renewal in 2 weeks' time, so we're all getting new phones and new numbers. I will leave an emergency number with the priest just in case anything happens to the house before the sale. Yeah, this guy needs to sell that place and get as far away from this crazy village as possible. Final update. He says, well, they got the election done and all the posts are filled. None were returned to the old office or in any office. The priest got the chairperson's post. A primary school teacher got the secretary job. None were standing before the meeting. Sort of please take the job before they do. The village is still fighting. I can hear them outside. The 3 husbands. The 3 husbands are not only getting their arses kicked by their wife, but now half the village as well as their sons. Probably because most of the village is going to spend a long time in confession this weekend. Now I'm leaving to go home. I only need to visit the village once or twice to move back due to the sale of the house. They'll be listed on Monday. Paperwork's done, picture taken. All I need is a buyer. Then I can take the furniture out to some recycled, most to the dump of all of her kids don't want, and the bed is to be burned along with any of her clothes and things that she gave me. Giggle plus anything her sister wants. She deserves nothing. The end. So there you go. This dude, all those years, thought everything was cool and had no idea that for 20 years of their marriage, she had the one steady affair partner for 28 years before he died, but pretty much the whole marriage, he's hooking up with dudes left and right, and all 4 of his sons are not his. That is insane. And like I said, the Scottish Jerry Springer show. So the moral of the story is, for many of you, don't get married, or if you do get married, you got to pay attention. You got to do a lot of screening of your girl if you're actually going to get married to her. And even then, you got to watch out for the red flags. But this guy never thought there was a red flag. But that is just a shame. But to those pieces of crap that hooked up with her, they're going to get their own. And I think it's hilarious that he sent her body 300 miles away in another country to be buried. That's the least he can do. But anyhow, guys, that was a good one to cover there. Definitely interesting there. Thank you for bearing with me. He wrote these things a little off. I was doing my best to read it. I've read through this obviously a couple times, but even then, did my best. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you ever come across a great story like me to share and do on this channel, by all means, email it to me, and I'll cover it in the future. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.